What's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. As you guys can see behind me, I got the Sportster back up on the motorcycle jack, and you might be wondering what we're going to be doing to the Sportster. So without further ado, let's get into it. Boom! Progressive suspension. So I went ahead and took advantage of the Labor Day sale on J&P Cycles and picked up some new rear shocks for the Sportster. We're just going to be doing the rear shocks first. Kind of how I like to do it. Maybe here in the future we'll add new front fork springs like I did with the Road Glide. So real quick, obviously I went with the chrome option for the shocks. This installation should be fairly easy. Comes with some instructions, some spacer layouts for different model years, and then obviously you got the spacers and whatnot. Like, it comes with a bunch, but if you follow the instructions down there, 91 and later 1200 883 Sportsters, and it just says use one number 1 sleeve and one number 4 sleeve for each shock eye placed on the inside to space the shock outward from the rear wheel. So number 1 is the long collar, so we'll set those apart there, and then it said one number 4. So you have the real thin spacer and the thicker spacer. So after reading that, be using one of each per shock eyelet. So I got that out of the way. All these are parts we do not need, so I'm just going to set them over there. But overall, these are like a budget-friendly shock. Normally they're like $379. Got them 10% off for the Labor Day deal, and then I had some RPM cash. So I got them for down below 300 bucks. And there's a lot of reviews on these, obviously, because they're like economy shocks. But everybody swears by them. And for the Sportster, I mean, I'm not going to be doing terribly long rides anyway on them. But I need something better than the stock setup. And my stock setup is only like 12 inches. Like 11 3/4, 12 inches, because it's the Hugger model. So I went ahead and upgraded to 13 inch, so we get that extra inch of travel. So real quick, I already showed you the hardware that came with the shocks. You get a wrench to adjust your sag and some lube for the down by the sag adjustments, just to make it a little bit smoother. So to perform this install on my 2003 Sportster, which obviously it will vary per bike, I'm going to use a 5/16 hex and a 3/4 inch socket and wrench to take off my shocks. As you can see, we got the bolt, and then there's a nut on the back side. So the way I like to do this is, obviously I got the bike on the jack, it's still sitting on the ground, so we'll take out the bottom shock bolts on both sides, and then obviously then we'll take off the top, remove the old shocks. I usually like to start the new shocks on up top, and then obviously since I have longer shocks, we're going to need to drop this rear swing arm. So that's where the jack comes into play. Once we get the top bolts mounted of the new shocks, we'll jack the bike up so that way the rear suspension drops a little bit until we can line up our new holes on the bottom shocks. And then obviously we'll clean the bolts off because we're going to reuse the same hardware, and we'll apply some Loctite and torque them down. So be sure to stay tuned for the installation process. Let me get you guys set up on a tripod and let's get to work. So like I said, I'm going to start by taking off the bottom bolt first, and then we'll repeat the process on the other side. Now this one's a little bit harder to get to because you have the rear belt guard. Alright, so we got the bottom bolts out. As you saw, the rear end dropped just a smidge. So now we can take the top Allen bolts out and move along. Like I said, this on this particular bike is a 5/16. Right off. I'm just going to carry this and set this over on the bench so that way I can see if there's like washers or anything in that shock. And we're just going to repeat the process on the other side. Okay, so now that I have the old shocks off the bike, I just wanted to grab a tape measure and show you. So you measure from the center eyelet to center eyelet, and these are only 11 3/4. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but the 12 is, hang on, I just moved the tape measure up a little bit. Yeah, these are only like 11 3/4. Just shy of 12 And then from center to center, that you could tell it's an easy 13. Definitely going to be a huge upgrade, about 1.25 inches higher. Definitely looking forward to that. So I'm just going to go ahead quick and wire brush off the old Loctite from these bolts, and then we'll get ready to reinstall them. So back over here at the bike, according to Progressive, they said reuse all stock hardware and configurations. So we're going to keep the washer setup the same as this little cover that came off the old shocks. But per Progressive, they said use one shoulder sleeve and one other spacer on the inside part of the bike, which would look like so. So I'm going to go ahead and put the stock bolt through, and then we're going to try to get that started here. We just try to get them started by hand first, and then just going to take it in a little bit. We'll leave it loose because obviously we'll have to jack this baby up a lot. We still want some free play in this. And then we'll also want to torque spec it later. So we're going to move the camera to the other side and get to the same part. Alright, got all my spacers set up correctly. Start it by hand. And then now at this point we can loosen up our strap and jack up the bike a little higher. Alright, so I don't know how well you can see. We jacked it up and got it kind of as close as I can eyeball it. I'm going to have to go up just a smidge more, but we'll wait till we try to get the bolt through. So obviously we're going to reuse the same hardware again. I need one of those shoulder sleeves to go in, and then another spacer, and reapply some Loctite to the bolt. I am like right there. Alright, let's try to get that through. Not forgetting about the belt guard. Move you guys for a second. Get that nut on the back side started. I actually found out for these backside nuts a 19mm works a little bit better, so that's what I went with. I don't want to go too tight till we get the other side on. Okay, so same thing. Apply the other spacer. And then the back side nut. And then, like I said, just tighten it down a little bit, and then we'll do a final torquing then. Alright, so that's pretty much the gist of it. There's nothing else to it. So my GoPro died at some portion of that. I don't know if it got everything, but if it didn't, I went ahead and just snugged everything up. I said I was going to go ahead and get my torque wrench and torque everything down. And then I said that I will put the bike back down on the ground and re-torque everything again once it gets weight on it, just to make sure nothing moved. And then we'll work on setting my sag per the instructions. So I got my torque wrench all set. So for the 03 Sportster rear shocks, the upper and lower shock bolts are 35 to 55 foot-pounds. It's a critical part in my opinion, so I'm just going to do the full 55. That's what I'll be doing. Obviously we have Loctite on it too, so once that hardens in about 24 hours, we should be good. We're going to go ahead and torque these down. So I just realized I don't have a 3/8 to 1/2 inch adapter here at my garage. I don't have it at my dad's, so I'm only going to be able to torque the bottom bolts. Okay, so I just got done torquing the bottom shock bolt. Like I said, I don't have an adapter to do the top, and I don't have a 3/8 torque wrench here. Obviously that stuff's on order. I gotta acquire some of my own tools, clearly, because my dad has most of everything. But I went ahead and just got them snugged up on the impact and then went by hand, kind of about what felt the same with the torque wrench. Do as I say, not as I do. We're going to go ahead, lower the bike back down on the kickstand, and I'm just going to go over all 4 bolts again on the upper and lower shock bolts, just to make sure once the full weight of the bike's down on it that nothing kind of just gets in its happy spot, and do a final torque down. And then that's going to be it. Then we'll set the sag and we'll go out riding. Alright, so I got the bike off the jack. I went ahead, I sat on the bike and just kind of bounced my butt up and down on the seat 10 to 15 times just to simulate any movement with the added weight of the bike as well. So we're just going to go ahead, go over all the bolts once more, and she'll be ready to ride. So now that that's done, I'm going to grab a tape measure and loosely try to do the sag as best as I can solo. So the target ride length we're looking for is 11 3/4 per progressive, or lock the tape measure in at 13, and then we're just going to go ahead. So hard, I'm going to have to do this more. So we're like just under 12, so I'm gonna call this setting good for myself. This is the lowest setting, and it's like right at 12 or slightly under 12. Without looking straight at it, I can't tell. So nonetheless, that's as good as I'm gonna be able to get it for myself anyway. So I'm gonna just kind of go ahead, clean up here, and then we'll close it out. Alrighty guys, so I got everything put away, got all the fingerprints wiped off. So there you have it. Those are how you install 13-inch progressive 412 shocks on the rear of a 2003 Harley Sportster. And all that's left to do now is to take her out and see how much better she rides. But I definitely like it because this was a hugger, so it definitely lifted up the back fender nice to give it a lot more of an aggressive stance. I didn't want to go too high because if I would have went anything higher than probably 13, I would have probably had to do the front fork sleeves right away. But they definitely raised up a little bit, so that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, and she sits pretty flush now, so with sag on the back, it will still be where it needs to be. So yeah, they look absolutely amazing. Glad I went with the chrome. As always, I'll have the links down below in the description for these shocks. Like I said, I got them off J&P Cycles. Definitely easy installation. This only took me about 15-20 minutes. And what took me the longest was obviously the filming and whatnot with moving the camera and changing out GoPro batteries. So definitely thumbs up for ease of install of these shocks. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, make sure to drop a comment below, but that's all there is to it. So if you guys made it this far in the video, make sure to smash that like button, comment, subscribe, hit that bell icon so that way you guys stay notified when I post new content like this. Make sure to ride safe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace! Yeah.